This is an Amiga 500 Plus replica which we built on the channel just a couple of videos ago. We had some problems with it and had to do a bit of debugging, but now we have a fully working, fully built Amiga 500 Plus clone. So what we're going to do today is, oh god, I haven't finished it. I have to put the battery holder in, right. Bear with me, hang on, I'll get this in real quick and I'm gonna get right back to you and restart the video. I've had these things on the side for ages. I just forgot to put it in because I was too excited to turn it on once I'd built it, except for the battery, and see if it was working. Well, it's in there now, so let's start again. So where were we? This is an Amiga 500 Plus clone which we built in an earlier video. It was a hell of a process. It must have been 12 hours of soldering, probably more. And a bit of debugging too. It's cost us quite a lot so far, as you'll see, but at least we have a working Amiga and I can finally relive all my childhood gaming memories. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, who didn't just build the Amiga 500 PCB for me, they do everything. They made my RDI interface, which I assembled, they made my logic analyzer interfaces, they made these USB-C power delivery things that I'm going to put into a Speccy, they made and assembled this top secret Spectrum mod, they 3D print things like cabbage dogs and cases for your projects, they sell you tools and things like this ruler thing, and they'll even sell you a Tesla coil. Ow! Not to mention the project pages, the educational bits, and the design services. They're really good. Anyway, so what was wrong with it? The problem was this chip, which is called Fat Agnes. The one that I had a scratched case, which I guess meant broken don't use. And I learned that it was broken and I shouldn't have used it. What else can I tell you about this? It has RGB out, which goes to SCART. It's got 1 MB of RAM, call that chip RAM. I've gone with the original power socket on the back, that's the square one here, and I've got a power supply to match it. We also salvaged a lot of components off another old Amiga 500 PCB, including some of these connectors. If you're curious and you haven't caught up on the earlier two videos, this is the issue that we were facing with the Fat Agnes chip. I think the blitter was the issue, as you can see in this scroll test, which failed catastrophically. And after we replaced the blitter, the scroll test looked like this. I don't know if that's a perfect result because there's something funny going on, but I'll take it. Anyway, on to the purpose of this video, which is peripherals and cases and keyboards and things. This is the power supply that I've opted to use. You have a choice in Amiga power supplies. You could buy an original one and test it. You could make your own. People use Meanwell power supplies to make their own, and you can even put them in the original Amiga PSU case. Or you can buy a prefabricated new one, and this is basically a Meanwell inside a case, but it does have a nice little LCD screen on that gives you a reading of the voltages, which I thought was neat and sort of something that I would enjoy looking at. You can even touch this little bar down here to cycle through different displays that give you various bits of information. Nice. This particular one came from Poland, I believe, so it had an EU plug-on that I had to change. I didn't really want to use an adapter. And you see that I've gone with the black case, which is about to make sense when you see the case I've gone with for the computer itself. There's a nice label on the bottom that gives you the voltages as per the pins, and here's the square connector, which is on the end. Now that's really nice that you can get these with the square connector on. The Remix board which I built does have an option to use different connectors if this is too hard to get. The company that make this, by the way, make all sorts of PSUs for other retro computers as well, which is neat. Okay, moving on, what about the video cable? I've gone for this one, which is by a company which makes all kinds of video cables for retro computers, and I've got a drawer absolutely full of them. I do vouch for these. So highly recommended. I don't know if this is the only option for pre-made Amiga cables, other ones may be out there, but you can't go wrong with this one. It's from Ian Priddy at Retro Computer Shack. Go have a look, there's all kinds. It's very professionally made and comes with a nice glossy instruction sheet and even a little bit of a troubleshooting sheet. Made in Britain too, which is nice. These shiny stickers too are quite satisfying. This connector, by the way, you can't really get the actual connector that the Amiga takes, so we're forced to cut down the slightly longer version of the connector. I didn't have to do this, by the way, this is how it comes, which is good service. It has the two audio connectors as well, which feel beefy enough and high quality enough for me. We have been tracking the spending on this project so far, so let's resume where we left off and make some room, first for the PSU, which was £80, and for the cable, which was £17. Alright, we'll keep track of that. Now for the keyboard. This is an important bit, and you'll see that here I have an original keyboard from a eBay auction. I guess someone broke an Amiga down and sold it for bits. So this is going to do me, and I have bought black keycaps. Now you might prefer the original beige, and I see why you might want that, and I might want one of them for myself as well. But I'm going for this all new, shiny new reproduction look with this particular Amiga. So I'm going to keep these keycaps for a possible future project. It's so nostalgic looking at this, by the way, with the Amiga keys and everything. It's taken me right back. I was quite interested to see that the keyboard did have its own integrated circuits on and a custom chip. It's like a little embedded system within itself, which is a neat solution. The keyboard was sold with a non-functioning caps lock LED, so they provided a replacement, which was nice. And this is the first time I've seen underneath these keys, so let's start ripping it apart. I can see there's a spring and a little kind of platform and a hole underneath each key. Fairly standard construction, I guess. This one's not coming out.
Huh?
Ah, I see. It's got a little metal bar on it. Okay, I am used to that. So the metal bars have returned. Those can be tricky to get out, and I recommend you be careful when removing them so you don't snap any tabs. Although everything seems fairly robust around here, it's not like the spacebar on the old Spectrum Plus machines where you could snap them very easily. I resorted to the key puller halfway through this because my fingers started hurting, and I continued to struggle with these little metal bars under the longer keys. But anyway, there we are, they're all off, and now how are we going to get to this LED? And at this moment in time I've realised I need to unscrew all of these tiny little screws. So let's get the back plate off. I can see that the circuit boards come off with it, and I'm going to be very careful now not to turn the top half of the keyboard over and accidentally drop those plungers all over the floor. So this is my first ever look at an Amiga 500 keyboard membrane, which is nifty. I'm not going to do anything with it though. And here I've found the LED, which is stuck in a little socket here. It looks like the legs of the LED just touch contacts pads on the keyboard membrane. Although I was just checking it on diode mode and the LED was lighting up. I'm not convinced this LED is broken. It's giving a voltage drop of 1.6 volts. Don't know if that's right, but I know a good way to check. I'm going to test the new LED as well, and I can see the new LED lights up in the same way, and it did measure the same voltage drop. Anyway, I'm going to put the new LED in because why not? I've made it this far. I'm also going to give the contacts a little bit of a rub with some plain paper. Maybe that will expose some more of the conductive material in there. That might have been the problem with the LED. I guess we'll find out. So let's get the backplate back on, give it a clean with a brush, and we can start putting on the new keycaps. Hooray! I am happy just to brush this down. I'm not going to get the alcoholic spirit out or anything like that because it wasn't in too bad nick. Here are the keycaps I'm using. They're from A1200.net, which seems to be an extremely well stocked store for all your Amiga needs. I've gone for, as I mentioned, the black keys with the white letters on. What's in the box? We've got 96 keycaps for Amiga 500 and 1200 and some extra ones for Amiga 600. Couple of different space bars and 100 springs and 16 plastic clips. I'm not sure what the plastic clips are, but I'm sure we're going to find out. I was a little bit surprised to find what looked like a keyboard in the box. That's going to become clear. There's our plastic clips anyway, and there's our springs. Here's a couple of space bars, and this is what looks like a keyboard, but it's just our keycaps. We'll get it out the case, which I struggled a little bit with, couldn't grab hold of it, and unwrap it from this bubble wrap and take a look. So here it is, and we can see it's not actually a keyboard, it's just a piece of plastic for holding all of the keys in roughly the right place. There's a spurious return key above delete, so this definitely isn't a keyboard layout. I'm just trying to decide how do I get these off, and yet you just need to grip them and pull them out. And I did resort in the end to just poking something sharp through the holes in the back to pop them out, which seemed to be the more sensible way of doing it. So let's have a practice with an easy one. I'm using the right directional key. I've put the spring on the platform thingy. I'm going to use the new springs here and keep all the old ones. And I've popped the key in, and now it's working. It pops up and down. Lovely. Okay, you don't need to watch me do this 100 times, so let's just continue. I'm sticking with the easy ones first. In hindsight, maybe I should have done the more difficult ones first, but anyway, this is what we're doing. There I am popping them out from the back, which made sense, and it's just going to be a case of running around putting them all in. The springs are a little bit annoying in that they get twisted together, but it wasn't too catastrophic. They do just kind of wiggle away once you get hold of them in the right way. These are the plastic clips that we were confused about. They pop into the underside of the longer keys, and then we can put the metal bars in. The keyboard didn't come with metal bars. Is that what you call them? Metal bars? I don't know, I'm calling them metal bars. I had to use the ones from the original Amiga keyboard, and I had a hell of a time getting this return key in because it has two of the metal lever bar thingies in, and it took me a very, very long time. I'm not showing you that, it's embarrassing. And there's our spacebar in place. And I think that's it, yep, so it's just time to tidy up now, and then we can move on to the next job. That's our keyboard assembled. Lovely, I'm pleased with that. It's going to look really good in this case. But I guess we should keep up with tracking how much I'm spending on this, so let's go back to our shopping list. That keyboard cost me £38, the donor one, and the keycaps cost me £78. Now clearly the keycaps are totally optional and totally superfluous to requirements, so there's a bit of saving that you could make on this because this bill is getting out of hand. Alright, on to the next thing. What about the case? I got the case from a1200.net too. I got it along with the keycaps in the same order, and again it's arrived in very professional, nice packaged, and I'm very satisfied with the case itself, as you'll see. So what's in the box? We have the top and bottom shell of the Amiga 500 case. We have a bottom trapdoor, which is like a flap that comes off to access a connector. Two rear trapdoors, a couple more connectors, socket things, left side trapdoor, right side trapdoor, lots of trapdoors, 4 pads and a floppy button and 6 screws to hold the whole thing together. Now this is really exciting, let's get into it. There it is, and as I mentioned, I've gone for the black case, personal preference, and I couldn't be happier with it. Let's get into this bag, I want to see it. And there it is. And let me tell you, this feels legit. It doesn't feel grainy or 3D printed or anything like that. It feels real deal, so that's fantastic. I guess it's been cast properly. Nice. Okay, it's screwed together. It's come screwed together, so I need to get these screws out before we can do anything with it. So with those out, we can take the top half of the case away from the bottom half and have a look inside. Ooh, it's shiny. And I've just noticed all of these signatures from the original developers are on there. What a nice touch to include that in the design of the reproduced case. What a really nice nod to the original creators. I love that. I wasn't expecting that. It almost seems a shame to plonk this PCB over the top of that, but I guess we're going to have to. So in goes our assembled and repaired Amiga 500 Plus reproduction PCB, and we've almost got a computer. And let's pop the lid on, there we go. We're going to have to take this off obviously to put the keyboard in and continue working on it, but it's gone together really nice. Now it didn't come with screws for attaching the board to the case, so I had to rummage through my screw drawers until I found a few suitable ones, which should do the job. Rather than install an internal floppy drive, I've chosen to use a Gotek, which is a floppy drive emulator. This one has an adapter board and it's designed to go with the Amiga 500 specifically. Really nice. Unfortunately, mine arrived slightly damaged. One of the corners was a bit broken and I had to bend a couple of pins back in place on the ribbon floppy cable headers on the left hand side of it there, but it's going to work and I'm not going to make a fuss sending it back. Obviously this is preference as well, you can install a floppy drive if you'd rather, but I'm going with the convenience of having the Gotek. So the case does fit over it, we just need to install a ribbon cable and a power cable. The data cable can just be a standard 34 pin 2x17 cable, so I've ordered one. And in the meantime, let's pop the keyboard into the case. And I'm just going to flip it upside down and shove it in place. There doesn't seem to be any fixings. I think it's just held in by the case being screwed together, which is fine. If I'm missing something though, please do let me know. Let's see if this all goes together then. I'm just going to offer up the top half with the keyboard in to the bottom half, which now has all the gubbins assembled in it with the exception of those two cables. And yeah, it goes on nicely and the keyboard stays in place. In fact, we should probably plug the keyboard in. This connector goes on both ways, and I did put it on the wrong way the first time, so careful there. Now, the cables have arrived, I've plugged them in, that's not very interesting, but what is interesting is this tiny little ribbon connector you can see on the tiny little daughter board in the Gotek. We need to plug the ribbon cable into that. But first of all, the ribbon cable needs to be threaded through the grill on the top of the case before you plug it in. You'll see why in a minute. And let me tell you, this is really hard to do while filming it. But there we are, I've got it in. And the ribbon cable goes to this, a little control board for the Gotek with a turny knob on it and a display. And you can cycle through games. The Gotek came preloaded with some games that don't suffer from copyright issues, which is nice and thoughtful. I did have thoughts of spray painting this black, but all of the electronics in there are potted in and glued in, so I've put that off for the time being. By the way, you could build one of these Goteks yourself if you got the boards. You don't have to buy a pre-assembled one if you want to continue DIYing this thing. I just want it finished. So I now have an Amiga assembled, working in a case with a video cable and a PSU and a keyboard and a little floppy drive emulator thingy, which means we're not finished yet, but I can give it a quick try and see if it works. And yeah, it works. Check it out, Turrican. I put this one on myself, it wasn't preloaded on the stick, and it's because this was one of my favourite games ever, and it's just as good as I remember, and I'm just as bad at it as I remember. And this is the hardest part of the build, is stopping playing the games to do all the last little jobs, such as getting a mouse working. Now, I looked at original Amiga mice and reproduction ones, and it was really expensive, and I'm already eye-wateringly in too deep with this, so I'm going to use a normal PS2 mouse with an adapter. I say PS2, it's a USB mouse which is PS2 compatible. This adapter wouldn't work with my Razer mouse, I had to get a cheap one, a Cherry one, which is working absolutely fine. Now obviously the first thing to do when you get a working mouse on your new Amiga is play Lemmings, and again this took a lot of my time up because I couldn't stop playing it to get back to finishing the job. Saying that though, there's not much left to do really, I just have to screw the case back together and put the nice little badge on the case. Oh, alright, let's do it now and then get back to playing the games. By the way, did you notice the Amiga mouse mat? This came with the case, it's just an extra goodie in there, which I thought was brilliant. It's really nicely made and it goes perfectly with the case, obviously because it's black. So nice touch, A1200.net, keep it up. Let's put the badge on, and the more astute of you might have noticed it was already on in some of the earlier shots. Chronology goes out the window a bit sometimes when making YouTube videos. Before we go any further, we need to keep adding to our spending bill. So we have the case, which costs a not cheap £80, but good value for money. Next up we have the Gotek, which costs £60, and finally we have the mouse adapter, which costs a total of £20. So that means, adding it all up, that this thing has cost me £1,000 bloody pounds, which is a hell of a lot more than I expected to spend. But I have mentioned along the way all the ways you can save money while doing this, and you can shave hundreds off that, so don't be put off. So let's get back to it and finish the job. You don't need to watch me put the case screws in. So here it is, here's the finished Amiga. Now I'm going to put a Pi Storm in it, I think. I want to do that so I can have the SD card, but for now I'm super happy with this, and if you don't mind, going to get on with a bit more Lemmings. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope I've inspired you to take on your own build, whatever that may be. If you enjoyed the video, come join the Discord, join Patreon, click on Super Thanks, drop a comment in, whatever you can, it'll help support the channel. Cheers, see you in the next one.